Is Fan Stevens? Yes, I can help you. Sorry, you've been taken care of, the man said, handing over the envelope. He turned around and left. Oh God, I can't believe this is happening, I whispered, holding the envelope with my trembling hands. Tears were streaming down my face. I knew he was angry, I just never thought it would come to this. I have to stop this. I have to talk to him. I have to fix things. A few days earlier, I had just finished my day's work on my laptop. Now that I work from home 3 days a week, I have a lot more free time to take care of my family. But today, at that time, I had an hour and a half before my daughter came home and 2.5 hours until my husband returned. It was my time. I can't believe I'm about to do this. I was running to take a quick shower, trying not to get my hair wet. I can't believe I let Hunter talk me into doing a live chat. Since he left our office 6 months ago, we have kept in touch, first on Facebook and then on WhatsApp. We always flirted in the office, although nothing serious. But as soon as we connected, neither of us could resist talking about fantasies. I never asked where his wife was when we were online, and he never asked about the state of my affairs, so to speak. It was exciting. Hunter tried to get me to send him pictures without clothes, but I never did. Instead, he sent me a lot of naked pictures. However, more than the visual, it was his words that drove me crazy. I never used my cell phone to send her messages or pictures because it was a company phone. I didn't want to take my job back if, God forbid, my daughter or my husband saw something inappropriate. I jumped out of the shower and quickly dried off with a towel, touching up my makeup. I was only carrying migraines to the plush white horn. I returned excited and nervous to my home office. I configured my settings so that there would be no logging if I turned on time for the designated connection. Hello, my precious angel. You look beautiful as always, Hunter said. I can't believe we're doing this. I'm so nervous. Look, my hands are shaking. Steph, this turns me on even more. Well, it's not fair. You can see me shirtless from the waist up, but you're covered. Come on, Angel, open up that robe a little. Let me see. Me the Milos labiosi. Throw my head back. I closed my eyes and slowly slid a long red nail through the opening of my robe, exposing my right breast. The balls were as hard and long as the tip of my little finger. I heard Hunter groan. I smiled and slowly rolled my eyes. His eyes were wide and hungry, and I could see his hand moving up and down out of the view of the camera. Hunter slowly leaned back in his office chair to show more of his body on camera. Or, here she comes, Angel. Or, look at you, you're so attractive. At that moment, I felt my chair tilt back, and it seemed to me that I was going to fall. My eyes widened, my hands grabbed the cup holders, my legs wobbled, trying to keep my balance. I heard a shouted word, hello, stupid. My eyes were now filled with horror as I saw my husband standing over me, with one hand gripping the back of the reclining chair and the other holding my laptop. She screamed at the video feed and then threw the laptop across the room, smashing into the opposite wall. My chair overturned to the floor. I remained in the air with my knee on my head. I was stunned for a moment, but I got up as fast as I could, just in time to see my office door slam shut as my husband, Mark, ran out of the room. I fastened the belt of my dressing gown and ran down the hallway, but not fast enough. I only managed to see from the porch the taillights of my husband's car at the end of the street. No, what did I do? Desperate, I ran to the kitchen to get my mobile. I leaned my elbows firmly on the table, trying to stop the shaking in my hands. I grabbed my phone and tried to call him, but I got no answer. Then I sent a message, but there was no response either. When I saw the time, I realized that my daughter would be coming home soon. I decided to dry my tears, get ready, and try to pull myself together. I quickly put on some Chanda pants and an old, skinny t-shirt. As soon as I got out of the bathroom, I heard the front door open. Mom, I'm already at home. I met my daughter in the hallway. He looked at my face and immediately knew something was wrong. What happened, Mom? You don't look well. Your eyes are very red. It's okay. Honey, I just had a rough day. I'm not feeling well. How'd it go? Did you see a good day? That's fine. Why don't you sit down and relax, Mom? Can I make you a cup of tea? Don't worry. Dad will be here soon to take care of you. Just hearing those words made me cry all over again. Maybe I'll lie down for a while. I would love some tea. Thank you, honey. I decided to lie on the sofa in the living room, curled up in the fetal position. I heard my daughter Tiffany making me tea in the kitchen. What have I done? Have I regularly ruined my marriage? Just imagine what my daughter would think if she knew what was going on regularly. Here's your tea, Mom. Wow, you look really tired. Maybe I should text Dad and tell him to get pizza for dinner. I'll tell him you're not feeling well. Tiffany was already texting her dad before he could react. Dad says he'll bring pizza. I couldn't believe I responded to her message right away. Did he block me on his phone? I was glad that he at least replied to her. Did you know I was coming home? But what would that mean? I don't think he will touch this topic in front of his daughter. I can only imagine what you were thinking. Probably the fact that he interjected a homemade version of a full-length romantic movie. I decided to quickly return to my home office and clean up the broken parts of my laptop. I took the main piece and threw it in the garage trash. I returned with the broom and the dustpan and picked up the fragments. I was rearranging my office chair. I reddened again as I thought about what I had done. I needed to find something to cover the hole in the drywall so that my daughter wouldn't ask questions. To push my back against the wall and pushing with my feet, I managed to move the filing cabinet just enough to cover it. I heard Tiffany running down from the top floor. As the front door opened and cracked open, from the hallway, I heard them talking in the kitchen. Hello, my love, how was your day? Do you have any homework to do tonight? Yes, I have a bit of homework. Thanks for buying the pizza. Mom doesn't feel well because you don't take the pizza to your room and she does her homework. Then you and I can watch TV tonight. Is that okay? Sounds interesting, I said quickly as I slipped into the bathroom to check my appearance before talking to Mark. When I went out and headed to the kitchen, there was no one there. I opened the pizza box and looked at it. I felt too sick to eat. I stood there, listening, and I heard the sound of the television, coming from the game room in the basement. I went down the stairs cautiously, and when I arrived, I saw that Mark was watching TV. With your back to me, I walked over with reluctation and sat down on the edge of the sofa. He did not take his eyes off the television. I was silent for a few moments with the tears running down my face again. Mark, we can talk. I told him. The TV slowly paid for it and then turned to look at me. His face was angry, but his eyes were full of tears. Mark, I know how you must feel. You know nothing about how I'm feeling right now, she replied quietly, trying not to grunt. His face was red from going to, and little droplets of saliva were flying towards me. My body was shaking. I had never seen Mark get angry or raise his voice at me. Now he had done it twice in a single day. Leave me alone. I'll talk to you when I'm well and ready, he said. I jumped up quickly, crying, and ran up the first floor, then up my room. I curled up on the bed in the fetal position, crying nonstop. A minute later, Tiffany poked her head out the door. Mom, are you okay? Should I call Dad? No, honey, no. I'm fine. I just need to get some sleep. Come on down and watch a movie with him, I said. I had a terrible night tossing and turning in bed thinking about what I had done. Mark must have been sleeping downstairs. The next morning, I put on a robe and sneaked around the house looking for Mark. I soon realized that he had already left for work. The pizza was in the fridge and the coffee was ready. I poured myself a cup as I sat on the kitchen island, grabbed my phone, and texted her. Forgive me. I love you. Thanks for the coffee. Have a nice day at work. I thought to myself, he will have gone to work today. I didn't even see him change his clothes or take a shower. I had to work at the office that day. Before I woke up my daughter, I burst into tears again in the shower. Then I went outside and called Tiffany to get up for breakfast. When I checked, I saw that there was no reply message on my phone. I didn't even dare to think about visiting any egg pages, contacting Hunter in any way that day or ever again. I just wanted to leave all that behind, like the broken pieces of that laptop. When I came downstairs, Tiffany was eating a bowl of cereal. He poured me another cup of coffee. You're feeling better, Mom. A little. Thank you. Did you and Dad like the movie? Yes, we saw Blade Runner 20 to 49 It was great, Mom. You should know her by sight. After the movie, I went to bed and Dad stayed watching the sports news. I guess he's already gone to work. Yes, honey. You'd better go to school. Do you need a lift? Thanks, Mom, and don't worry about my lunch. I'm going to take some cold pizza, he said, as he started to order in the refrigerator. That's not a fancy dinner, young lady, but I'm not in the mood, and I'm in a hurry. Come on, let's go, I replied. We were busy at work, which was a godsend because it distracted me from everything else. Then, around noon, the inevitable happened. A phone call. Stephanie is speaking, Stephen. How can I help you? Hi, Steph. It's me, Hunter. What happened? Are you okay? I couldn't reach you. I don't know your mobile number, and you weren't online. I pushed the phone away from my ear as if it was on fire with a shocked expression on my face. Then he would stick the phone in my ear again, and I whispered, Hunter, don't ever call me or try to contact me again. After hanging up, you run from my desk to the bathroom as fast as I could before bursting into tears again. When I calmed down, I made myself a cup of coffee. I checked to see if there were any messages from Mark, but there were none. I sent you another message. Please, Mark. I love you. We can talk. When I returned to my office, my colleague smiled. I sat down again and went back to work. You'll get your chance, he said with a stoic expression on his face. Then I heard you calling me. I went and helped you. Confident, and I suggested that she sleep with you in her bed so that I could take care of her and I would go to sleep in her room. I knew in that moment that I didn't want to feel your body next to me in bed that night or any night in the future. When you asked me to bring him something to drink, I was returning your laptop to gather the information I needed to be able to access later and finish my research. No. I read so much that I could barely breathe. Later, when I saw them both sleeping peacefully, I would read everything again. Then I went to Facebook, checked out your story, saw everything I could find. I even checked your cell phone. I didn't have a password. Obviously, there was nothing because it was a work phone. At least there was enough to not make that mistake. Still, there was definitely a mountain of information on the computer. He stared at me for a moment and then continued. Using a small zip drive, I saved all the information for the future. That's how I found out about your plans to get into videography. That's why I decided to go home early to see if I could get there before the show, but I was a little late. The show had already started anyway. I also learned a lot about your boyfriend, Hunter. He's not my boyfriend, I said, speaking softly. Speak quietly and wait for your turn. As I said, I found out about his wife and children. His wife is a good woman and has a Facebook page with all kinds of information, including about where they live. Once I sent some of these pictures and conversations you've been having, I'm sure he'll be too busy picking his own skin from a divorce to keep playing romance. Hearing the word divorce, I began to cry, desperately falling to my knees in front of him. Please don't leave me. Please, Mark, don't give up on us. Let me try to explain it. Keep your voice down, and you don't want this to be a three-way conversation with our daughter. Okay, it's your turn now. Tell me everything from the beginning, and don't you dare to lie to me. I know a lot. It's okay. I'm sorry. Hunter, as you probably already know, worked in our office about 6 months ago. He often flirted with me at work. There was never anything, I swear. Mark, nothing, I promise. It was always just a flirting conversation. One day, we had lunch together, but Katie from the office was with us. You can ask him, nothing happened. She was there. The three of us were there. After crying so much, she breathes with difficulty and continued. So, on his last day at the company, he said we should keep in touch, even though he was moving to another state. So we exchanged Facebook accounts. I didn't give him my phone number, I swear. We sent each other messages on Facebook, Messenger from time to time. I saw him as a friend who was easy to talk to. One day, he suggested that we go to the WhatsApp website so that we could communicate. He sent me a link. As I continued with my confession, I could no longer maintain eye contact and looked at the floor. I think now he probably wanted to get off Facebook because it was a tool his wife used. That's when I made my first, maybe my second mistake. And as you read, the flirting started, but this time it was prettier and more graphic. Hunter wanted me to send him pictures, but I was feeling anxious and scared. I also didn't want anyone to have pictures of me. It was getting out of control. Deep down, I knew it was wrong, but I was lost in my fantasies. Then he convinced me to make video calls. And no, I'm not putting all the blame on him. I was stupid for going through with this, somehow convincing myself that he was harmless because I wasn't physically with him. What a fool I was. I share my body with him, whether he was in the room or not. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm so sorry. I would do anything to undo it, and I will do anything to fix it. Mark, please forgive me. You have no idea how surprisingly abandoned I felt at that moment. I thought I knew you. I opened my soul to you. Still, I had to stand my ground in front of our daughter and in front of you until I had all the facts. I feel rejected. You lied to me, and now you expect me to sacrifice my dignity by erasing these memories. Stephanie, you cheated on me. It's no different than if I came downstairs in the middle of the night and saw you dancing naked in front of him while he was watching you from the couch. Your frying is an emotional destruction of our relationship and an attack on my masculinity. No, Mark, please, let me fix this, please. It's over. I'm sorry, Stephanie. From now on, this computer stays in the kitchen, where you do your work, and your phone also stays on this kitchen table. There will be no secrets. There is no reason why any of these devices should ever be locked. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to come to your work, and you're going to open your computer. We'll take a few minutes just to see what's on before your boss comes in. Of course, Mark, no matter what you say, there's nothing there, I promise. And I forgot that Hunter called me the other day at work during lunch, and I told him I never want to talk to him again. I told him that, Mark, don't worry, I'll take care of him. Mark, please don't do anything that might be illegal. You have little one. Our daughter needs you. We'll talk about this again. I need some clothes for tomorrow at work. I'll put some things here in the basement to get changed. Also toiletries. Mom, Dad, are they watching TV down there? I got up from the floor and began to wipe my tears by turning off the lamp on the small table to try to dim the light so that he could not see my face. Tiffany came downstairs and threw herself on the couch between us like teenagers do. What were we watching? The three of us sat in silence watching the movie. When the movie was over, Tiffany fell asleep in my arms. I tried to wake her up, but she wouldn't move, either fast asleep or pretending. Mark turned off the TV and then came over and hugged him. He picked her up and led her up the stairs to her room. She might have been 13, but she was petite just like me. Her long chestnut ponytail swayed back and forth as he carried her easily in his big, strong arms. I felt a little pang of jealousy as I followed him. I didn't know if Mark would ever hold me in his arms again once his anger became passionate. They continued down the hallway, and I went into the master bedroom, grabbed my nightgown, and went to the bathroom to get ready for bed. When I came out, my husband was there with some clothes for tomorrow, and he got into the bathroom. To get their steal items, please, Mark, do not do this. Please sleep in bed with me tonight, Stephanie. I think you have no idea the impact I felt when I read everything and then saw what you did. My eyes read my wife's words. I saw my wife's actions, but I was mentally trying to figure out who this person was. This is not my wife. This is not my Stephanie. At that very moment, the woman I knew disappeared and was living with a woman I didn't know. Mark, please, it's me, your wife. I was stupid, but it's me. I'm here. I'm so sorry. I was a fool. Please forgive me. I've learned my lesson. Let me fix things. I was laughing uncontrollably, with tears and snot flowing from inner ease. He simply continued with his task, then left and went downstairs. I lay down on the bed, and I laughed until I fell asleep. I was awakened by the sound of the alarm clock. Then I got up and walked down the hallway. I knocked on my daughter's bedroom door, the April I told her to get ready. I went downstairs and checked to see if Mark was in the basement. He had already left for work, just like the day before. The coffee was already made in the kitchen. I made toast, cereal, and juice for Tiffany, and then started making her lunch for school. Good morning, Mom. Tiffany sat down with me and started eating breakfast. After a few moments, he asked me, "Is Dad still mad at you?" "I think so, but we're working it out. Don't worry, everything will be fine." "Don't worry, Mom. Dad has been mad at me before, but he always forgives me because he loves us." I didn't want to, but when I heard those words, I couldn't help myself and I started crying. Tiffany circled the kitchen island, hugged me, and started crying too. "Sorry, I'm very sensitive this week. You know how it is. Look at us, how silly. Finish your breakfast, and I'll take you to school." We hugged each other some more. Then we wiped our tears and got ready to start the day. After dropping Tiffany off at school, I called work and told them I would be working from home that day. Then I sent a text message to my husband, telling him that I would be at home working for the first time since that terrible day. I just wanted you to know. I was surprised that he didn't stay a little longer in the morning to join me to check my work computer. I cleaned the kitchen and then logged into the laptop. I wasn't blocked, and I was fine with that. As I was starting my day job, I was wondering if there was any tracker here to monitor what I was doing. I was also wondering if he was connecting to the camera in front of me and was watching me at that moment. In a moment, I called Katie at the office to ask her to send me some work notes. I was actually having a pretty productive day, and I was feeling a little better for putting everything on the back burner when I heard the doorbell ring. "Stephanie Stevens?" "Yes, how can I help you?" Sorry, you have been notified. He put the envelope down and turned around to leave. Oh God, I can't believe this is happening. I held the envelope in my trembling hands with tears streaming down my face. I have to talk to him. I have to stop him before he leaves me. I'm terrified of what I've done. I've destroyed our family. My daughter will be devastated too. Evitella, loving my mother, did not want to involve her in this disaster. It's my fault, although I should talk to someone. I can't take it anymore. I'm on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I know it's a waste of time, but I need to talk to Mark. I grabbed my phone, and Mark is a number. My hand was shaking so much, and the tears kept flowing down my face. Hi, Mark. Mark answered. Thank God. This fan, calm down, okay? Listen, Tiffany will be home soon. I need you to calm down. It's the weekend tomorrow, so he doesn't have to go to school. Call your mom and ask if she can take care of her tonight so we can talk. Hey, do you hear me? Yes, I hear you, I'm sorry. I'll do it. You're coming home, aren't you? Yes, I'll come. Mom, it's me. I can take Tiffany this afternoon. Mark and I need to talk. You're crying. Honey. Oh my God, that happened. Are they okay? Mom, please, no questions now. We could talk about this another time. I'll take her after school. It's okay. Honey, I'll see you soon. When Tiffany came home, I managed to pull myself together a little. I told her that I would take her to her grandmother's house that night, so that Mark and I could talk for a while. He asked me again if everything was okay, and I told him that everything would be fine. She's a smart kid, and I know Tiffany didn't quite believe it, but she didn't insist. When we arrived at my mom's house, she greeted us at the door, and I could smell that she was cooking pasta, one of Tiffany's favorite dishes. A minute later, my dad came out to meet us, gave Tiffany a big hug, and took her inside the house. My mother looked at me with concern, but did not ask any more questions. On the way back, I wondered if Mark had talked to his mother about her situation. I know they don't veto it often now, but they usually talk on the phone quite a lot. Vita's a few hours away, but he always makes sure she's okay after her father's death. I was surprised when I arrived at the entrance of our house and realized that Mark was already there. I quickly packed up my things and tried to get out of the car, even forgetting to unbuckle my seatbelt. I ran into the house, shouting her name, and headed for the kitchen, throwing my cell phone and purse on the counter. Mark was sitting at the computer. I figured he was checking on me today to make sure I was doing well. Before I could say a word, tears were already flowing from my eyes. Sit down, Stephanie, he said. Mark told me to log on to the computer and turn off contacts on Facebook and any other apps or sites while he watched. He got up, opened the refrigerator, took out a bottle of wine, then took out 2 glasses and poured half a glass in each. Stephanie, let me talk, okay? Let me say everything, and then you can say your part. It's okay, Mark. I'll listen to you. Stephanie, I took time off work after our little situation and actually went to talk to a lawyer. I was so angry and sad at the same time. At that time, I was sure that I no longer wanted to be married and that I wanted a divorce. Or, Mark, please, I don't want to get divorced. Let me try to fix this. Stephanie, let me finish. As I told you at night, when I read what you had on your computer, 1,000 thoughts went through my head. How long has this relationship lasted? You love him. What did I do to deserve this? I had no idea who you were. You were no longer the same woman I hung out with many years ago. Then I saw you there, exposing your body to this man, a body that was dear to me and only to me. And yes, I know you didn't have sex with him. That's what you say, but that doesn't make the pain any less. Mark paused for a moment and then took a deep breath. I am proud of the fact that I am the man who captured your heart. I am proud that you are my wife. When I caught up with you, we were no longer 2 people. We became one, sharing ideological values. So like I said, I filed for divorce. Then, I had a little time to think, and I want to talk about my current mood. Mark paused again and took a sip. He wanted to say something, but he lifted his finger to silence me. Although my way of thinking has changed a little, as Stephanie, the legal separation still stands. I need you to understand the seriousness of what you've done. Pushing his chair back a little, Mark continued talking. For my part, I'm not moving. We will stay in separate rooms. I don't feel like I can see between us right now. I hope you agree that not much needs to change in this house for now. We don't want to upset our daughter any more than we probably already have. I don't think you have to humiliate yourself in front of Tiffany, our family, or our friends by going into details. However, I have no intention of being the bad guy here. You will make it absolutely clear to everyone that our problems are not my fault. Mark, can you tell me? I'm not done yet, but that's okay. I'm listening to you, Mark. I promise you that I will do my best to make up for it, and I will never speak to Janter again. Please don't divorce me. I want to go to therapy, and I hope you will come with me too. Mark, you're going to see other women now that we've split up. Unable to contain myself any longer, I burst into tears and put my head down in my hands. Stephanie, that's not the point. I have no intention of dating anyone. If anything changes, I'll be honest with you. I support the idea of you talking to a therapist, but I don't know if I'm ready for that. You humiliated me at that moment. You hurt me deeply. If treating you like a princess and putting you on a pedestal made you think I'm weak, you're very wrong. I will not tolerate any more disrespect from you. No, Mark, you're not weak. I don't know what happened to me. I'm the bad one. I'm weak. Send a brief summary of your affair with Jantera, his wife, by Facebook. It is not fair that she is more deceived than I am. I will leave everything as it is, without further contact. They can solve their situation on their own. Claim at a price your sincerity about the call from the other day. But there will be no more contact from now on. Is that clear? Yes, Mark. What will we tell Tiffany? We'll sit down with Tiffany on Saturday and talk about this calmly. We will explain to him that it is no different from when he gets angry with us. And we'll give him a chance to go to his room to think. You and I are not different. We need to be in separate rooms to reflect. We both love her with all our heart, and we always will. You can tell her that we are having problems with our friendship right now. My mind was full of thoughts. The thought of legally separating made me sick. Seeing the pain on my husband's face, I saw tears in his eyes. I was worried about how our daughter and our families would take it. I even felt deeply worried about a family that I never knew, the one of Jantera, although I knew that he was to blame. I played my part too, finished my glass of wine, and got up. I wanted to ask Mark if he wanted me to cook him something for dinner. I felt strange, dizzy, nauseous. My vision blurred. Stephanie, tell me, are you okay? I heard him calling my name. My eyes flickered as I concentrated on his face and listened to his words. Yeah, I'm fine. When Mark heard what I was saying, he left me for a moment. I was trying to sit down when he came back. Stephanie, stay still for a minute. Help me lay my head on the pillow. Then she placed another pillow under my feet and brought a cold cloth from the kitchen. He placed it on my forehead and held it there with his hand. What's the pain? You passed out. Just relax. I took you to the couch. I'm fine, Mark, thanks. The wine probably got to me. To be honest, I haven't eaten anything lately, and I haven't slept well either. You scared me. I'll be back in a moment. This time he came back with a glass of grapefruit juice. Here, sit down and drink it slowly. When you feel better, I'll make you something to eat. I sat down slowly, finished my drink, gave her the glass, and then started crying. Look at how you take care of me and how I've treated you. I don't deserve you. Enough of that. We've both had a rough day. Just relax for a few minutes. After a while, I felt better, got up, and went to the kitchen to see what I was doing. Mark looked at me and smiled, then placed a slab of hot tomato soup and a grilled cheese sandwich in front of me. I honored them back. Neither of us said a word. He sat down too, and we both ate in silence. After dinner, she washes the dishes. Mark went to watch TV, and I decided to take a shower. As the water fell on me, I thought about the events of the day. I had to save my marriage. I was determined to talk to a therapist. We needed to get to the bottom of what had caused all the problems. I couldn't accept that I had caused this man so much pain, but when I needed him, he was there to take care of me. After finishing my shower, I went down to the basement in my pajamas to watch TV with him. I kept my distance and sat on the opposite end of the couch. We were sitting in silence, staring and lost in our thoughts when I heard him speak. Are you feeling better? I sat there for a moment thinking before I answered. I still feel a little weak. I hope you'll sleep in our bed tonight because I need you. I don't expect you to touch me. I just thought it would be nice if you were there. Mark did not answer. We watched TV for a long time. It was already late when Mark got up and turned it off. He stood there, looking at me in silence. How about I sleep in the next room tonight, so I can listen to you if you need me? I followed him as he reached the stairs, crossing a thank you. I slept a little better that night. I don't know if it was because I was exhausted or because he was in the next room. I woke up to the smell of cough and coffee. We sat down and had a pretty leisurely breakfast together. I told Mark I would do the dishes, and it was time to do the laundry. His only contribution to the conversation was that he was going to fill in the wall in the office with Liso from the garage before we picked Tiffany up. I picked up Mark's clothes from the night before and took them downstairs to put in the washing machine. I took the t-shirt I had worn the night before, brought it to my face, and smelled it. That subtle scent had a calming effect on me for some reason. Around 11, I told Mark that I was going to call my mom to tell her that we would be picking Tiffany up soon. He replied that he was also going to call his mother, as he did every Sunday. I was thinking about how this conversation would go today. We picked Tiffany up, and my mom looked at me with a questioning expression. I just managed a slight smile. On the way to my mom's, Mark decided that we would talk to Tiffany in the car on the way back. There was no point in keeping La in the dark about this anymore. The conversation was basically like Mark and I had discussed before. Mark did most of the talking, and I tried not to cry. I tried to control myself, wiping my eyes a couple of times. Curiously, he did not mention that he had filed for divorce. Tiffany was silent as we pulled into the driveway and pulled over. He jumped out of the car and ran to his room. I followed her. She walked to the closed door of her room and knocked gently. "Tiffany, I can come in." There was no response. I got in anyway. She was lying face down on the bed, crying. I hugged her and cried too. "What happened, Mom? Why is Papa so angry?" Or, "Honey, I was stupid and made a big mistake, but I'm trying to fix it." "Don't worry. Honey, Dad loves you very much. I'll leave you alone for a while. I'll jump out when you're ready." Shortly before dinner, I told Mark that I needed to go to the supermarket. I asked Tiffany if she needed anything. "Is there anything you would like me to compare? I think she's mad at me." Asked him if you don't mind. "Tiffany, your mom is going to do the grocery shopping. Do you need anything?" "Yes, Dad. I want the three of us to go together." "Come on," he said, coming out of his room. So the three of us went, and at the supermarket, Tiffany did her best to get us involved in the conversation. Mark kept the conversation short and to the point, but he did his best because his daughter loves him. He was cordial to Tiffany, but he spoke to me in a cold and almost expressionless manner. Like today, when I worked at the office, I always liked to arrive an hour before everyone else. When I got to the parking lot, Mark's car was there. He was sitting in the parking lot, waiting for me. When I got out of the car, Mark got out of his. "Did you think I had forgotten? I'm here to check your computer." He spat out those words coldly. I was shaking like a leaf, not because I had something to hide, but because I was surprised by her coldness. Once in the office, he was behind me. Nervous, I entered the password, saying out loud, "Here you go, Mark, look." I haven't deleted my history or anything like that. When I looked at him, he was not looking at the computer, but at me. He had a very strange expression on his face, as if he was embarrassed, but that shouldn't be the case. He had every right to doubt me. Then Mark left without saying a word. I sat down and cried for a while. Then I heard Katie come into the office. He immediately noticed that I was crying and asked me. I've never been one to vent about my personal problems at work. I really considered her a work friend. But at that moment, I couldn't take it anymore and told him, without going into details, that Mark and I had problems. She was a good listener, and it was nice to be able to talk to someone about it. We shared a tea break in the cafe and then started our day. During lunch, I called my mom, and we had the same vague conversation about my personal life. In both conversations, with Katie and with my mom, make it very clear that Mark had every right to be angry. That day, when I got home from work, I sat down at the computer and looked for trimester therapy. It ends up being a date that same week. When I had a moment alone with Mark that night, I told him that I had made an appointment and what they were. He looked at me, recognizing what I was saying, but he didn't say a word. I was hoping that these meetings would help me understand why I did what I did and also approach Mark in the hope that he would be able to attend one of the meetings. Several things surprised me in my first session with the therapist. First, the therapist was somewhat similar to Mark's mother. She introduced herself as Marguerite almost immediately. I felt comfortable in her office. We sat at a round table. He offered me tea cake and began to ask me about the history of my relationship, how we met, who attracted us to each other in the beginning, and how the relationship developed. He asked me about our current situation, including problems with extended family, children, work, and daily stressors. I told him all the details of my interactions with Hunter and Mark's reaction, including the legal separation. When I returned home, I felt emotionally and physically exhausted. Mark and Tiffany were in the basement watching TV. I poked my head in the room and told them that I was tired and that I was going to lay you flat. Mark looked at me and asked if I had eaten. I told her I wasn't hungry and went to take a hot shower before bed. When I got out of the shower and put on my robe, I heard them talking in the kitchen, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. I lay down on the bed and opened a book to read a little. My daughter came into the room with a tray containing a pot of stew and a bun. Dad says you should eat, so he heated up some stew for you. Once again, I felt overwhelmed by this kind gesture and burst into tears. My daughter sat with me while I was eating and asked me how I had done in the session. I wasn't sure if she knew I was in marriage counseling or what it involved. I smiled and told him that everything had gone very well. He kissed me on the cheek, told me I had homework to do, and left the room. When I was done, I took my dishes to the kitchen. I listened to the TV downstairs, so I took my cell phone from the counter and sent a message to Mark. Thanks for the stew. I love you. After returning the phone to charge, I went to bed. The rest of the week was pretty similar. On Wednesday, I decided to work from home and cook a beef roast for dinner. Tiffany and I did all the talking. Mark was mostly silent. She asked if she could invite one of her friends to stay for the weekend. Maria, Mark, and I fell silent, wondering what she would say. We knew very well that every time I had a friend at home, they would retreat to the playroom in the basement for a sleepover. Without hesitation, he said, "Sure, honey, whatever makes you happy." My first thought was that this was Tiffany's way of pushing Dad out of the basement and back into our room. Will it work? Maybe my husband will agree to come back to our bed. The next day, after work, I had another therapy session with Margaret. We talked again about Hunter, how he worked with me, and the flirtation between us. He asked me about my relationship with my father and the men I had dated before I got married. I told him that Mark was very much like my father, that he treated me like a princess. I also told her that I had dated several men, but that I was not promiscuous before Mark. I had only had one serious boyfriend. This guy turned out to be a real Don Juan, sleeping with all the women behind my back. Margaret was very curious and asked me a lot of questions about my first boyfriend. I told him how he always knew how to say exactly what he wanted to hear. He was mysterious. He never talked much about himself, but he knew everything about me, my justs and dislikes. I've never left the work more than myself, but if I changed my makeup or hairstyle, he understood it intuitively and instantly complimented me. He always told me that other guys just wanted one night, but I never believed him. Then, one day I caught him, and that was the end. Margaret asked me if I saw any similarities between my Snovey and Hunter. I thought about it for quite a while, and then I said, "Yes, you're right." Then she changed the subject and asked me what it was like to be treated like a princess by my father. It was stressful. To be honest, I told him it bothered me. I always felt that maybe I would not meet their expectations. "And when Mark treated you like a princess, it wasn't the same," Margaret replied. "I think it's the same." I was afraid that one day Mark would wake up and decide that he didn't like what he saw. I'm here now. Mark doesn't like what he sees, and my dad would be just as embarrassed. I started to cry, and Margaret measured a napkin. She got up, made us a cup of tea, and left me alone with my thoughts for a good 5 minutes. "Margaret, I'm so afraid I've lost Mark. He doesn't touch me, and we barely talk. I'm so scared. He means everything to me. Don't worry, as Stephanie, we're working on it. Ask him again if he will come to see me. I know you don't want to talk about it, but if things get worse, the court will require your presence. That's enough for today. We'll talk again next week." I was fine with whatever you wanted to watch while Mark was changing channels, trying to find something. Tiffany came downstairs and sat between us, asking if we could watch a movie together. It was a cute movie, and I enjoyed it very much. Then Tiffany and I got up to go to bed. The three of us said good night to each other. Maria, Mark, and our gazes crossed for a moment, but we didn't exchange a word. She gave me a bath, and I got ready before going to bed. Then I laid down to read for a while. After about an hour, I got up, put on my robe, and nothing else. I stealthily walked down the hallway and checked where my daughter was. Tiffany was sleeping. So I quietly went downstairs to see if Mark was asleep. He was lying on the sofa, wearing only his underpants, illuminated only by the light of the TV. I dropped my robe to the floor and stood without clothes in front of him, staring at him. I knelt down and put my hand on her stomach, then moved her down. To my surprise, Mark Terrapin startled and grabbed my wrist. I heard him say no. He sat down and looked at me with a surprised expression on his face. I felt humiliated. I jumped away, grabbed my robe, put it on, and quickly ran to my room. I locked myself in the bathroom, sat on the floor with my back against the door and cried, Tiff, please open the door. Please go away. Reen answer. After sitting for a few minutes, I didn't hear anything, so I got up, opened the door, and looked outside. Mark was sitting on the bed, waiting for me. I walked slowly towards him, covering my eyes with my hands. I feel so ashamed that he considers me a moral monster that you don't even want to touch me anymore. He put his hand on my shoulder and took my hand away from my eyes. Stephanie, I'm not ready yet. I just need time to think about everything. I don't want to send conflicting messages with my behavior, and I don't want to take advantage of you. Listen, I'm going to visit my mom this weekend, and I'll be alone for a few days to clear my mind. I'm emptying the basement, which will give Tiffany her little weekend off. I covered my eyes with my hands again and cried. Look, don't cry, all right. I'm going to therapy with you, call the therapist, and tell her. I kept crying. It's okay, Mark, thanks. I will, but please, could you at least hug me? We both got up, and he hugged me. After a moment, he released me, looked at me, and smiled. We'll talk later, he said and left. I got into bed and finally fell asleep. The next morning, I was in the kitchen preparing breakfast. He hears Mark quietly enter the room, probably to pack his suitcase. Then, I heard the doorbell ring. Tiffany ran down the hall screaming, I'll open. Afterwards, I heard the giggles of the girls in the lobby. Tiffany took her friend to the kitchen. I asked her if she would join us for breakfast, and she accepted. He took his bags to the playroom and then joined me. Mark walked in, we exchanged an awkward smile, and he sat down to eat. If it weren't for the babbling of the girls, the silence between us would have been deafening. After breakfast, the girls ran to the basement playroom, and Mark helped me wash the dishes. He told me that he would be home on Sunday evening and that, if necessary, I could contact him by calling his mother. Then he came down, said goodbye to the girls, and left. I was waiting for him at the hallway door. Mark paused for a moment with his suitcase, and we looked at each other uncomfortably. Okay, I'll see you on Sunday, he said and left. The girls and I ordered pizza and then watched a romantic movie, which distracted me a bit from my problems. The next day, we went shopping, bought cookie baking supplies, and ended our Saturday by playing board games. Later that day, Megan was picked up by her dad, which gave Tiffany and I time to be together before Mark arrived for dinner. I asked her if she had had a nice weekend with her friend, and she assured me that she had. Then, suddenly, he asked me if I missed his dad. I told myself that, of course, I always missed him when he was away. I love your father with all my heart. We hugged each other tightly. Why don't we take a walk together, and then, when we come back, you help me make a nice dinner for him. It was nice to spend time just between girls, the two of us alone. When we got back, he helped me prepare a delicious roast with potatoes and carrots. Mark showed up just as we were getting the roast out of the oven. Tiffany met him at the door, hugged him tightly, and told him that we had cooked a nice dinner together. Mark reached into his luggage and pulled out a card and a book with a note attached. Look, Mom, Grandma gave me a gift card as she gave you a book. I read the card attached to the book. For my daughter, here is a book I read that you might like. I love you. Come with Mark next time and visit me. With tears in my eyes, I said to Mark, can I talk to you for a moment? Thanks for not telling your mom everything. Stephanie, this is our business for now, okay? Let me see, we're going to dinner. I'm hungry. Mark was nervous about the meeting with Stephanie's therapist, but she made me feel comfortable by seeming like a kind person. She told me she liked working with first names and introduced herself as Margaret. I thought it would be better if we talked for 45 minutes to get to know each other better, and then Stephanie would do her session alone. He asked me about my interpretation of the events, and then informed me that the stories were identical to the ones that Stephanie had interpreted a few days earlier. As expected, he asked me how I was feeling, and I replied, angry. Margaret essentially told me that anger is an easier emotion to digest than disappointment, sadness, humiliation, and fear of the future. We discussed the difference between regret and remorse. I agreed that I felt all those emotions, and I truly believe that Stephanie felt remorse. I told my wife how I had fared before this incident, as a lover, a wife, a mother, and a friend. Margaret paused, considered my statement for a moment, and then said, I know it sounds like your wife had everything under control, but her personality weakness will confront someone who puts her on a pedestal. She's weaker than you think, Mark. It earns your approval and admiration as much as it earns your respect. We continued our conversation, and time flew by. That's all for today, Mark. Thank you. I would like to talk a little bit with Stephanie. As she was leaving the waiting room, Stephanie looked scared. I informed her that I would meet her at home and start making dinner with Tiffany. We both drove our own cars. All right, Mark, I'll see you at home. When I got home after the session, I smelled a delicious dinner being prepared. Mark and Tiffany were in the kitchen talking and laughing. It made my heart glad to hear him laughing after another voting session that exposed my damaged soul. I was in the hallway taking off my heels, happy to be home. I looked inside my old office. To my surprise, came our laptop back on the table. I entered the kitchen and was joined by my loved ones, and we had a nice dinner together. I thought maybe, after Tiffany left for the evening, we could talk about today's meeting, but Mark returned to the basement and locked himself back in his shell. I went to the office, returned the laptop to the kitchen table, and went to bed early by reading. When I woke up in the morning and smelled the coffee, I got up, got ready before going downstairs. On the way, I knocked on Tiffany's door and told her to get up. Then I was heading to the kitchen. As usual, Mark had made coffee before he left for work. I poured a cup and then walked back to the hallway, about to yell at my daughter to get going. Then the door to the first-floor bathroom in the hallway opened, and I screamed. Mark, you scared me. Were you still satiating at home? I'm on my way. He walked past me and poured himself a second cup of coffee. Stephanie shouldn't know to bring the computer back to the kitchen. I saw that he was about to speak, and he raised his hand to stop me. Stephanie, I felt stupid the other day at your work when I asked you to open the computer. I feel stupid every day watching at home, but it's nowhere near as stupid, humiliating, and sad as the day I caught you with that man online. I know we need to talk to move forward one way or another, and I'm making that happen. I have to go to work. We can talk about this more in depth in our next therapy session. Just at that moment, Tiffany jumped down the stairs. Hi, Dad. You're home. I'm on my way out, honey. Have a nice day. I'll see you when I get home. Not much happened until the end of the week. Thursday finally arrived. Margaret went out to the waiting room where we were sitting, but not together, but in separate chairs. Just before I walked in, I thought this was awkward, but at least he was sitting close to me and not on chairs on the other side of the room. Margaret said that if everything was fine, she would like to talk to Marcus Salas first, and then to both of them. I honored them, and Marx raised and entered the room. I took a magazine to read. Margaret offered me a cup of coffee, which I accepted and sat down at the round table. He asked me how I was feeling and how the week had gone. I told her the highlights, including that I visited my mom over the weekend. I also told her about how my daughter mentioned that mom was hurt and that two mistakes don't make a right. I told him about the laptop, and he asked me why I moved it. I explained exactly what I said to Stephanie. I also told her about the incident on the first floor when Stephanie tried to put on, and I stopped her. Mark, do you love your wife? Lannis, if we make her see that the room is available for her when she wants to stay, it will be a nice gesture. That's a very nice gesture to Fanny. Since we're talking about grandparents, I was thinking maybe we should call your parents and ask if Tiffany can stay with them tomorrow, so we have more time to talk. It's a good idea. You two should talk, Tiffany said with a satisfied smile as she continued to eat her ice cream. When we got home, Tiffany called her grandmother, and we both thanked her for the gifts. I did not mention the issue of the spare room, leaving it in the hands of his son. With Mark in the basement and Tiffany retreating to her room, I took a moment to call my parents. Surprisingly, my dad answered. Dad, I know he's always treated me like a princess and he never did anything wrong, but I'm not perfect. Dad, I'm afraid, and I've always been afraid of disappointing you. I know you're not perfect, baby, no one is, although to me, you'll always be perfect, my little one. I love you. I love you too, Dad. He passed the phone to Mom, and we talked about how the IPA would look like Nata Fanny after school tomorrow, to which she gladly agreed. After hanging up, I told Mark that I was going to take a shower and he could join later. After taking a single shower, I felt full of hope. I put on some underwear and went to bed waiting for him for a long time, but he never showed up. The next day, at work, I started chatting with Katie. It turned out that we had a lot of things in common. We even read the same books. She told me a little bit about her upcoming VODA, and at that moment, I thought she would probably be a good friend, not just a colleague. I asked him if he would like to come home one afternoon, and he gladly accepted, saying that we would definitely have it ready by next week. I was returning to my desk to work. I was excited to talk to Mark today, especially after the disappointment the night before, but then I felt even more disappointed. He gets a text message from Mark saying he would be home an hour late, that he needed to stop by the lawyer's office. I got nervous. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I told Katie that I was going to take the rest of the day off. On the way home, I stopped to buy a nice red wine. When I got home, I started to prepare a delicious dinner for Mark and me, although I didn't have a little one at that time, and I felt overwhelmed with anxiety. With dinner in the oven, I decided to put on a beautiful dress and wait for Mark's arrival. I opted for a tight 3/4 length black dress and black heels. I had no idea why Mark was at the lawyer's office or what we were going to talk about, but I wanted to do my best. I can't remember the last time I wore a dress at home for him. If he was going to fall, he would fall fighting for his love. Finally, Mark arrived. I was so nervous I was shaking. When I met him at the door, he smiled and apologized for being late. We stood for a minute looking at each other awkwardly. "I'm glad you're home. Buy a bottle of red wine. Would you like to pour us a drink? I'll check how dinner is worth. Of course, Stephanie, by the way, you look great. She's wearing the necklace I gave you when we started dating." "Yes, Mark, thank you. It's very nice of you to remember that." We quietly sat down to dinner together. I said I liked the wine, and Mark agreed and praised the food. To say the atmosphere was tense would be an understatement. Taking a sip of wine, he smiled at me and laughed. "I don't understand why you're laughing at me," I said. "You're nervous. Your nose is moving." I find him cute. She shyly raised her hand to her nose and then laughed like a little girl. Stephanie leaves the dishes, fills our wine glasses, and joins me in the living room. "Let's talk." I followed him nervously into the living room. This was the moment of truth. We sat on the couch watching each other. "Stephanie, I know I've been quiet and distant for a while, but Rapami, you surprised me, and I felt very hurt and disappointed. I've thought about a lot of things like this house and what a home means. I thought about the good and the bad of our relationship. Mark hurt you, and I will never be able to forgive myself. Our original relationship is broken, and I can't fix it. We can build something new from the love we share, taking all the pieces of what is great in our relationship. Please, no, I love you. A home is where we live, you, as Stephanie and Tiffany. That makes a home. There's so much I love about you, too much to give up. Tonight, I went to the lawyer's office to affirm the revocation form. Get away from him. Come here. I was stunned. I don't even know if I heard it correctly. I got up almost self-consciously, and he walks until he's standing between his open legs. As he leaned forward on the edge of the sofa, "Mark, I heard you right this time." Tears of joy began to well up. "Please say it again. Tell me everything will be okay. Steph, we have work to do, and we are not done with Mar yet. But we'll get there together." Standing between his spread legs, he placed his hands on my thighs, stroking them, and he started to slide his hand under my short skirt, exposing the tops of my knee-high socks. They had a night where they were able to reconcile. Subscribe to our channel. What do you think about our story today? I don't think anyone wants to be in that husband's apathos, so I fully justify his actions, because that's what anyone would do, whether man or woman. What is your opinion about today's story? This is the end of my story. Subscribe to not miss more videos like this. And remember, history is a chance to become a better person, and see you soon.